come on in, Sarah Benedict.
Oh, we
Go ahead.
You can have a seat. Go ahead. There's an epidemic sweeping our nation. It has sunk its claws into 44% of Americans, but it puts all of us at risk. This epidemic does not discriminate due to age, race, gender, or nationality, and has killed babies, grandmothers, Caucasians, Hispanics, men, women, Americans, Europeans. This epidemic is tragic, and it divides families and friends forever. But the greatest tragedy of this epidemic is that the outcome rests solely in our hands, yet so many of us have this Superman complex, thinking that we will somehow be exempt from the consequences of our actions. So, what is this epidemic that is so serious, and how does it affect you? How do you know if you're exposing others to this epidemic? And how do you know if you yourself are in danger? The dangerous epidemic sweeping our nation is the simple case of drivers who text while operating their vehicle. You're probably thinking, I've heard this texting and driving speech before. And honestly, I really hope that you have. I know I've heard it before. But the topic cannot be stressed enough because the danger is real. The stories are tragic, and no one is safe from the devastation that can arise from operating a cell phone while driving. So how do I know that texting and driving is dangerous? The statistics are very clear. In 2011, 23% of all collisions involved cell phones. According to the National Safety Council, texting and driving causes 1,600,000 accidents per year. While it may not seem like a big deal to just quickly glance at your phone when you get an incoming text, your attention is diverted from the road for a minimum of 5 seconds. If you have a password protection on your phone, there's another 5 seconds. And what if the text asks for a response? Depending on the length of your response, your attention has now been diverted from the road for a minimum of 20 seconds. And keep in mind that the average stopping distance for a vehicle is 5 to 6 seconds. So if you've been distracted for even the 10 seconds that it took to put in your passcode and read the text message, you've already put your life, your passengers' lives, and everyone else on the road in immediate danger. How many of you would drive while you're intoxicated? How many of you would get in a car with an intoxicated driver? The National Highway Transportation Safety Administration says that texting and driving is equivalent to driving after consuming 4 beers, making you 23 times more likely to crash. Society tends to assume that texting and driving is just a teenager problem, and curbing their driving privileges will solve the problem. However, with the introduction of smartphones like this BlackBerry right here, and our ever-evolving need to stay socially connected, adults are now just as guilty of distracted driving as teenagers. In fact, 1 in 5 drivers, that means at least 2 people in this room, admit to surfing the web on their cellular device while driving, updating their Facebook status, checking their email, sending a tweet. All of these offenses, super harmless, but they put precious lives at risk and beg the question, is it really worth the danger? Now that we have seen just how dangerous texting and driving is, allow me to share some stories with you from people whose lives have been forever changed by this epidemic sweeping our nation. These testimonials are gathered from a website called textinganddrivingsafely.com, which is dedicated to raising awareness on this issue. The first story is from Megan D. She writes, "My godson, Enzo Williams, recently died in a car accident. He was 6 months and 15 days old. The driver who hit them was texting and not paying attention." Teresa Breen shares the story of her son John, or JB, as he was affectionately called by his friends and family. JB was a Marine, dutifully serving his country, about to leave for a deployment to Afghanistan. While he was home visiting his family before he left, he went to drive to go see some friends. And although his father had just told him to put the phone down because it was distracting him and running his life, JB went ahead and took the risk and was texting back and forth with a friend while he was operating his vehicle. And he was fine. He had everything totally under control until he lost control of his vehicle and it left the road. He was thrown from the car and died from a massive skull fracture instantly. JB left behind his parents, his brother, his friends, his battle buddies, and a precious 2-year-old girl who called him Daddy. Knowing all of this, that text message must have been really important. Was it worth risking his life and the happiness and well-being of his daughter? JB's last text reads, "Yeah," and the letter T. His mother, Teresa, implores you, take a look at the last text message you sent or received. Is that what you want people to remember you by? Is that message worth more than your life or someone else's life? I assure you my granddaughter would not think so. I was 16 when I got my first cell phone, and I was 17 when I started driving on my own. I'd heard the texting and driving stories. I even had a friend whose brother died in a distracted driving incident. I knew the consequences, yet I stand before you today, a chronic texter and driver. And those who know me can testify that my cell phone is almost always in my hand, or at least within a few feet of me. It's my lifeline, my connection to the world, and my solution to boredom. And I know many of you feel the same way. In fact, I'm usually surprised when I hear people say that they refuse to text and drive or even answer their phone while they're driving. And as young people, it's easy for us to think that we're invincible. We can handle the distraction. However, I ask that you take a moment to realize that it's not just your safety that everyone is so concerned about. It's the safety of your passengers. It's the safety of pedestrians and bikers on the road. It's the safety of the passengers in the vehicle in front of you, behind you, and beside you. Is the message that you're taking the time to read or send worth dying for? Is it worth the lifelong regret and guilt you will carry when you take the life of someone's loved one, or God forbid, your own loved one? The epidemic of texting and driving does not discriminate regarding its victims. We've seen that it takes the lives of the young and the brave, the innocent and the strong. As much as you and I may believe we are invincible, we are daily, callously, and unnecessarily gambling with the lives of those around us. There are ways to stop the spread of this epidemic. First, many smartphones are now equipped with a do not disturb function. This function keeps your phone from ringing or vibrating and thus being a distraction. It also forwards all calls directly to voicemail so you can return them when you're no longer operating your vehicle. There's also an app called Drive Alive, which you can use to monitor your app and phone use while you're driving. By ignoring received calls and text messages while driving, you can actually receive credit in the form of cash or gift prizes. Texting and driving is an epidemic that is causing worldwide danger, heartache, and pain. The solution lies in our hands. I ask that you stand with me in a pledge to not drive distracted. You've been lucky so far, but luck can only last so long. Put the phone down. Life is more important than that text, tweet, or Facebook status update. Thank you. Thank you again, guys. I really appreciate you letting me